Hello, friends. It is time for another episode of Mind Power Meets Mystic. I'm Michelle Walters. I'm the Mind Power Junkie. I'm the mind power part of this equation. And this week, I'm joined with my podcast pal, Cinthia Varkevisser. She is our show Mystic. We have been doing a series this year on the chakras, and we are going to continue sort of some of the themes of the chakras, particularly chakras 3 and 4, and talk about them a little bit more this week. So, Cinthia, tell us a little bit about what's the third chakra, what's the fourth chakra, and what's kind of an intersection or comparison point between the two.
I love these two. Well, I love all the chakras. The third chakra to me is between the second chakra, of course, between the second and fourth chakras, of course. The second chakra is about creativity, all these other things, and the robustness of life around receptivity, creativity, all these things. The fourth chakra is about, being in the moment, love, what's your thumbprint in life? It's about the greater good, something bigger than yourself. The third chakra is a great balance between the two, which is about personal empowerment, confidence. It's really about um, not mastering, but really understanding your emotions and allowing the emotions to fill you up in a certain way. It's easy to be in balance with your emotions, and when that happens, it usually comes from your third chakra. Hurt feelings, third chakra. Low confidence, third chakra. A bit of arrogance, right? But it's arrogance because you don't want to look at something, third chakra. So that's what the third chakra is. There are a lot of good things about it, and it's really, for me, the easiest place to see the imbalance, which is right in the third chakra. The fourth chakra is the balancer of all the chakras. So it's there are three above, three below. And the three below deal with past. The three above is about projection. It can be about future. It can be about all these other things. And the fourth chakra just hangs really steady right here, right now. So that's what we
So,
got.
fourth chakra is kind of the chakra that's most associated with the present, the not sort of where you came from or where you're going, but where you are.
Right.
Is
And
that fair to say?
it's also right. It's the thing that makes us right size because if we're not walking our talk because fifth chakra is about talk, then we're not really in our present. We're not really um uh bound by all the foundation that we have, everything that we've experienced. And so then you're just kind of, even though it's the fifth chakra, you're talking out your butt. So So that's why, the fourth chakra is really, really a great balancer. It reminds you to be right-sized. It reminds you that you are, or like I love saying I am unique and I'm all that and I'm no big deal. You know, that's who we all are. We're all that and we're also no big deal. So that's the beauty. It's also a great connector, right? Because if I'm present and you're present, we're always going to find something in common even if it's like nothing in common, even in those things of not being in
Even
common.
if it's a stretch.
Right. Exactly. Which you've been on those dates, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Where I
Well,
remember,
not just dates, but I do a lot of business networking, and suddenly you're talking to someone and you're like, okay, so you're pest control.
right,
How,
right,
how do I find something to talk to you about?
right. One of my favorite stories is it was a long time ago. I had a job interview when it was still all in person, and I sat down across from this man, and on paper, we were a perfect match for each other. And so as soon as we started talking, nothing in common. It was the funniest thing. And then it finished up and he says, "Oh yeah, he says people tend to have problems with this, but I also manufacture guns." And I said, "It's been really lovely talking with you, but I don't, believe in this." And the where we connected is that we were so grateful that we could both be honest throughout the whole interview where we just looked at each other and like, this is not going to work. It's not going to work. He gave me the 20 whole minutes, and even though we both slotted in an hour and we said, but it was a great moment because we were in the moment and talked about really honestly what
Well,
was
it sounds like you both were hearing each other.
right.
And
Exactly.
I think that's and this conversation is not meant to go into a broadly political
No,
conversation,
no.
but we really do have cultural issues right now where hearing one another has become a challenge and a problem. And
Right.
hearing the same sets of things and discerning what's factual and not factual,
Right.
and deciding what's right to what are the what are the limits to anything, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, back to third and fourth chakra. So third chakra is a little bit sort of about the self, the ego, the sort of having personal power. And
Right.
fourth chakra is more about sort of being present, recognizing community,
Right.
kind of living in that space. Okay,
Right.
I love that. I
Purpose,
love that.
purpose driven, right?
Purpose
Purpose.
driven.
Right.
So, one of the things we wanted to explore today was to talk a little bit about healers and healing work and what healing work can look like as regards sort of the third and fourth chakra. So,
Right.
I think Cynthia, you had a story you wanted to share about that.
Yeah. This is a typical story that I had from a client, but I've also heard it from the healing side as well. And what had happened is I was had coffee with Judy, really good friend of mine, and you know her, and she has a family member that has really gotten into energy work as well as selling supplements. So it's a great marriage for this family member. Judy's mom is 95 years old. You know, she's got vitality in her. She's still really social. She is in a senior living home, but it's fantastic. It's very active. Um, the family member went and visited and decided that uh, it would be great if she checked the Judy's mom's energy to see how she could help. She did this without the mom's permission. And doing the energy scan, she determined that Mary, Judy's mom, needed copper. And
Mhm.
so bought the copper supplements and sent it to Mary without even thinking about could there be medication? I mean, 95 years old, there's bound to be medication. What are the medications and all these things? And so it actually goes right back to what you were talking about not listening. And the thing that we have as healers, in particular, those of the empathic, in the empathic vein, is it's so important to listen to what your person in front of you needs. There are a lot of times that we get information that is not for us to just share. A lot of times we get information and our job is to help them find out, which is more like what therapists do and other people, it's about them to uncover. It's their experience. We just get to like, put a couple of guideposts along the way and then witness. And sometimes um, a lot of people, when they are in their readings, there's a flash of something and then we get into our own emotions. And once that happens, we are no longer sitting in channel. We're sitting in our feelings. And so then what we do is that we relay our messages from our third chakra, which is, you know, because my feelings are hurt or because I was offended or whatever it is, then the message changes. So, go look at any actor and they'll put, an emphasis on any word and it changes the message. So,
Completely.
right? So it's really important for us as healers to look, really see the person in front of us. Really ask them energetically, what is it that you're looking for? What is it you're looking for from me? It's also nice to ask them, I love to say, hey, how can I be of service today? And they'll talk about it. While they're doing that, I'm asking, what is it that they really want? So I'm listening And at the same time, I'm writing down, this person says that they want these things, and my channel's saying, be loving, be kind, make sure that you say two good things before you say this because they're in such a, delicate state. And it's really important also for healers, especially those who give readings, is to say, if you don't understand, that doesn't hurt my feelings, right? Because we're two human beings and language is very limited, right? Energy is limitless, but our language is limited. So I will change my words, but not my message. And my job is to make sure that you get your message. Who gives a shit what the words are, so long as you get the message,
Yeah,
right?
no, I agree. I often talk about message because message is bigger than words. Words
Absolutely.
matter. Words matter,
Right.
but message is the bigger concept. I think as you're talking about this, it reminds me because I've been to a number of different coaching programs to learn how to be a better coach.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the and these are not intuitive or woo-woo or any kind of that. These are very sort of pragmatic, conscious focused type schools. And the emphasis of most of the training in those programs is to focus on asking questions. And asking questions is an outstanding way of evidencing your listening,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also of not really um, not going too far or sharing too much of your own stuff, your own
Mm-hmm.
ego, your own whatever,
Right.
to help that person to communicate, to get out what are the facts around what's bothering them? What are the feelings that have been injured? What are the catch 22s they're caught in that they don't know how to deal with, right?
Right.
Um, and so, I think kind of one of my tips for people is that, when you find yourself, whether you're a healer or not, and I think everybody is a healer or a
Absolutely.
friend or whatever,
Right.
but I mean, just today I was on a phone call with one of my dearest friends and she's having a lot of troubles. And I said, "Hey, we've talked about a lot of things, but have you ever made this statement? Have you ever like drawn this particular line?" And I asked it as a question. Have you done this?
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, she was like, "Oh, no. I haven't drawn that line. I haven't drawn that boundary." And my point was not go do it. My point was play with that idea.
Right.
Think about that. Test that out. Talk to someone else about it. Like you don't need to take this action today, but
Right.
what if you were to? What if you were to? Is helpful at not putting too much of your own energy into. Now, I
Mm.
think it gets really tricky in the readings part and in some of the work that I do in hypnotherapy because there are places in hypnotherapy where I ask questions, absolutely. But there are places in hypnotherapy where what makes it work is me telling you this is how it is.
Right. Right. Well,
And
that's
and that's part of getting a reading, right? I'm
right.
telling you, my guides are saying X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And it's those moments where figuring out how to I guess lean into the fourth chakra, lean into the balance is more important than letting third chakra self, my ego, my stuff, my experience overshadow the the best energetic healing energy that I can create.
Right. Agreed. You're really good at that. The other thing that's really nice is that you create really good examples. So it's set up and then you can go in and do the teaching moment or whatever, the moment of awareness. But I also like what you're saying is that it's sometimes it's you have to do the thing, right? Which is the lesson is to be really direct because that's what the message is. The message is, and the thing I like about that is sometimes that's the shakeup. That's the shocker, right? That and kind of shocks you back into place, which puts them back into the present. The other thing about third chakra is it's about standing up and really taking on the confidence and being standing on whatever it is that you're saying. So a lot of clients they're empaths themselves. And so they're not really sure exactly, well, I have boundaries. I got to do the boundaries. Yes, do the boundaries or whatever word you want to call it. I don't like using that word. You know that. Mine is stand on your personal power. Let your personal power be your boundary, right? But there are times where, the reading is fucking tell them to shut the fuck up and fight. Fight for what it is that you believe in. You don't have to fight your whole life, but there are certain times where you just got to stand up and go, I'll fight you on this. And what happens is that it changes up the energy again. And
Absolutely. Fighting uh, puts in a lot of energy.
right,
And sometimes it results the way you want it, and sometimes it doesn't.
right.
But
And but
it does. And that's kind of like what I was talking to my friend about this morning. What if you were to do this?
Mhm.
It's taking an action.
Right,
It's not fighting. Oh, I wasn't recommending a fight in a big way, but I was
right.
recommending like take a stance.
Take a stand.
Take a stance
Right,
and tell some of the people that this matters to.
right,
And what would happen if you were to take that stance? What would happen? And um sometimes if you don't like where you are and you want to get in a different place, taking a stance and leaning into that, you know, your personal power, that what you have control over, that side of things is essential
right.
for catalyzing a shift to get things out of a poor place and into a better place.
Right. And just to wrap it back in is as a healer, it's really important to know when are you direct, when are you leading, and when are you witnessing. It's all a part of the healing space and the process for the person in front of you. Because sometimes you know, my favorite readings happen to be mostly men do this, but I've had experience with some women as well. Well, they will talk for about 30 minutes, and really what they're doing is that they're getting their comfort in, they're trying to dispel some kind of fear, and what they're doing is they're taking up as much time as possible, so they're afraid of the answer, so that the answer when it comes in, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's we're done." That a lot of men have done that in the past. And then they'll say, "Oh shit, I wish I had asked earlier." But the way I look at it is, no, you had to do that thing, and if I were to press it in any way, they would have shut down. So it's really important to look at your person holistically because that's exactly what you're doing as a healer, right? And I love how you heal because you do blend your mind and your intellect with your healing, with your hypnotherapy and your healing process.
I've had a few clients be surprised that they'll come for a session and they consider me their hypnotherapist. They'll come for a session and 15-20 minutes into our session, when normally I would need to move it along to help them into the chair or to get started on that piece of the work. But where I'll bring up with them, hey, I think we're making a lot of progress at the conscious level here.
Hmm.
We're gonna, my recommendation is that we don't worry about doing hypnosis in this session, and instead we talk about at a conscious level what's going on, what are your actions, what are your feelings, how do we look at it from at a conscious level, because sometimes that's an essential component of making the change. I mean, I can hypnotize people to do all kinds of things,
Hmm.
but if at the end of the day they need to kind of write the bullet points for a, I don't know, a letter to the X or something like that,
Hmm.
that might be work that's better done or uh, better set up by
Right,
having a discussion about it instead.
right. The other thing that I like about this scenario that you're talking about, what has happened, is I have a client that's working with a hypnotherapist, and she came away saying, I've got all these emotions, and what the hypnotherapist said was, essentially, I wasn't there, so I can't tell you, but this is what my client
What
came
she
across
relayed to you, yeah.
yeah, is that they don't deal with the emotional aspect. So you go do your emotional thing, come back when you're ready for the next step. Um, I, on one level, I didn't agree with it because I'm like, oh gosh, now you left them a little bit not whole. And at the same time, totally respect that that's what they don't do. right? That is for whatever reason, that's what they don't do. Maybe that's not their forte, or, it gets a little bit too sloppy for
Well,
them.
I think it can get sloppy. I
Yeah.
think it can get sloppy. And I certainly have helped clients deal with very emotional situations, and I think almost all hypnotherapists do.
You have to.
But
Yeah.
there are times where a person is so violently upset about something
Hmm.
that you really have to shift course and deal with that,
Hmm.
or set it aside or reschedule,
Right.
because uh, you know, I had one client who came to see me and is like, I'm really shook up. A friend of the family tried to commit suicide yesterday.
Wow.
Oh, well, we're dealing with that. We're not going to
Right.
deal with what you came to see me for. We're going to deal with that,
Right.
because that's big and omnipresent, and it's, I guess it's fourth chakra, right? It's present, it's here. We need to reach a higher degree of balance with that
Right.
before we can look at, going back to your other stuff.
Right. Make it right sized.
Yeah.
Right sized.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing from the healing aspect. Is there anything else that you want to talk about of note, especially from the space where we are providing the highest care because it's holistic, right? So I like to think of the holistic healing as the highest healing. And, of course, specializing is so important. And that's also the highest healing when people are ready for that piece. But for general practice, for a lot of us that are walking life and we're struggling in different ways, holistic healing is the highest level because you're like, okay, we're going to look over here, and that's going to help balance you over here on your business life, which will in turn help you talk to a family member. You know what I mean? So there's this great
I
untangling.
think the one thing that I might want to bring up is
Yeah.
that, um, so we're both in kind of this coaching world. There are a lot of coaching programs that offer certificates of some kind,
Mm,
and there's some amount of value in some of those certificates because they evidence work. They show a particular kind of content focus, right? But they might help you build your business, right? Because people know what they are, that's what they're looking for, that kind of a thing. But on the other hand, I think that a lot of healers get swept up in the idea that, oh, I need training in this, I need training in that, I need training in this and in that. And I am, God knows, I mean, I love to learn and I'm always doing something new, but it is very easy to get um, kind of sucked into and oversold
hmm.
what the promise of certain coaching programs might be. And I
Hmm.
think that in some cases, maybe one way of looking at that is that some of those coaching programs are more coming from a what's good for them
Hmm.
versus what's good for the students.
Right.
And I just would encourage healers and people of all stripes to make sure that when you're going into a coaching or training program, that it's speaking to you and exactly what are your needs, and that you're able to reflect on its value, sort of minusing out excessive ego elements of the program. Is that
Right.
is that clear?
It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me on a slightly different bend, which is some programs I've noticed they come out and um, they send you on your way with no foundation, experiential foundation. And so they say, fly, be free. And everybody's like, yippee, yahoo. And then, there's
And
nothing.
now what?
Yeah, it's now what? And
And
then
now what?
there, you say you provide healing services, but I tell you what, there's something about experiencing somebody having that first person cry and you staying in your space, or having, bumping into something that's much bigger than what was anticipated, and being able to settle into it. And I believe a lot of certificate programs, they don't give you that opportunity before they send you on your way.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the other thing to bring up is that a big part of this is choosing the right clients. I am
Right.
not everybody's perfect person. I'm good for a lot of people, but there are clients who are looking for things that I don't provide or don't want to provide. There are clients who have showed up being, I don't know, a little weird, or where we just in a short period of time weren't really seeing eye to eye.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And um recognizing that, not everybody's for me and I'm not for everybody.
Well, yeah, you know what I tell you about that, right? The channeled message I got. I love my channel because they have a sense of humor, which is right, which is if Jesus Christ, Buddha, and Krishna are not for everyone, why the hell do I think I should be? And what I love that you do is that you very lovingly send these people off and refer them to someone else. And I like doing that as well because now I'm a matchmaker.
Exactly.
And there's something really magical about matchmaking without having to worry about, I mean, if I could, I would matchmake you with, a guy friend totally, right? But
Mr. Wonderful.
yeah, I don't have any guys in my
Maybe you'll
life that
find
are,
him for me, Cynthia.
I would love that.
I know you're on the lookout list.
Always.
What
Oh,
I love about you and your services are that, you are like everything that I bring up with clients, pretty much, I'm pulling from them. I'm using their words.
mhm,
I'm it's coming out of their own voice in terms of a lot of this healing. You have a different, you're pulling in information from kind of a different source. Maybe it's not that different of a source, but it's perceived as a different source.
mhm.
And by sharing that information with someone, especially like when you do cold readings and you don't know anything about anybody, and then you start telling them things that they're shocked you would come up with, um, it it creates rapport and a relationship that has a really unique and special element to it because of the we expect everything to be so logical, and
Right,
not everything that you tell people is logical.
right, right.
Um, and and I think that's just really, really beautiful.
Thank you. I need to tell you a story about that though. It's there was a group that I belonged to. And I got a phone call from a member of the group, and they said, there's this woman who wants a reading, and no one will take her on because she is asking questions. She's having an affair with a married man.
Oh,
And I was like,
okay.
yeah, but I was like, how dare you? You're looking at the person in front of you. It doesn't matter what she's doing. So bring it on. And then the whole story comes out, which is, she's Polly and she's looking to be, it's a whole different thing, right? And I was like, you motherfuckers, you could be helping this woman instead of making her feel like a rag doll going, refer, 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 refer. And you could have helped her out if you just would have listened instead of
Listened and asked the right
asked the
questions,
right
right?
questions. And even if it wasn't, even if it wasn't that she was Polly, look at the person in front of you and look at the pain point. It doesn't matter how she
Well,
fixed
and
that
I
pain
I
point.
think the other thing that I want to call upon, kind of especially in light of all of the crazy things going on in our world right now, is are you rushing to judgment?
Right,
Are
right,
you rushing to judgment? Do you have all the information?
right,
Is it appropriate to say this happened or that happened when nobody's really figured that out yet?
right,
And um, what can you do to slow that down a little bit? What
right,
can you do to ensure that your sources are truthful and accurate, and that you're not spreading misinformation either intentionally or unintentionally? Don't think
right,
a lot of people spread misinformation intentionally. There are some, but we all go so fast right now that that's sometimes overlooked. And I
right,
I think it's something we need to bring back as a value to all of us. Because if we, how are we going to get unified if we can't start to listen to each other and focus on truth and facts? I
right,
don't know another way.
right. But having told the story and now listening to you, I can look back and go, well, shit. I'm judging those people. Maybe they looked at their fourth, that they looked
Maybe
at
they're just
everything.
uncomfortable dealing with somebody who's that open sexually.
Right, right.
Maybe.
And so in front of you and the Mind Power Meets Mystic community, I recognize that I was being judgmental and I will now shift that story.
Well, yes and no, Cynthia. I think they too felt like they were doing the best. Most people are
Yeah,
do what they do because they feel like it's the best they can do.
right.
And I do believe that most of the time. Um, so I don't know. I know you do the best you can do as much of the time as you can, and I do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's why that's why we're friends, right? We we
Mhm.
we match that way. Our integrity matches. That's actually a great way to wrap up, which is to talk about our integrity, right? Integrity has to deal with our chakras 1 through 4, based on all our experiences, our base fears, the way we receive everything, and having these experiences, we get to have this integrity. And from this integrity, we get to jump off from wherever we want. So, yeah, is there anything that you want to add to that
No,
or
just that integrity is on my list of top 5 values.
mine
So,
too?
and I know it's on yours too.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know. How do you say be a person with integrity? You can't say
Right.
be integritous.
Yeah, integrity. Yeah, so here's the deal. I think that this is a great way to finish up, which is know that you're coming from your space and, really look at the person in front of you and if it's not a match, then send them off with love and maybe the person that they really are meant to match up with. That's
All
what
right. That's
it's
it.
all about. Yeah.
Make a match.
Make a
Live in your
match.
integrity. All right, there we go. That concludes another episode of Mind Power Meets Mystic. Thank you for joining me, Michelle Walters, the Mind Power Junkie, and Cinthia Varkevisser, the spiritual shit disturber mystic, on our show. Please like us, send us a rating or review, send us an email. We'd love to get to know you better as we continue to refine and grow our show. Thanks. Bye
Bye.
bye.